Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. It's your host, Jenny Simon.
And I
And I
know
know
that
that
I
I
promised
promised
you
you last episode
that
that
we
we
would
would
continue
continue
with
with
the
the
first
first
year
year
anniversary
anniversary
achievements
achievements
of
of
the
the
National
National
Democratic
Democratic
Congress
Congress
administration.
administration.
However,
However,
I
I
was
was
supposed
supposed
to
to
share
share
that
that
today
today
with
with
an
an
interview,
interview,
my
my
first
first
guest
guest
on
on
Simon
Simon
Says.
Says.
But
But
we
we
did
did
that
that
recording
recording
and
and
it
it
took
took
the
the
entire
entire
hour.
hour.
It
It
could have
could have
gone on
gone
for
on for 2 or 3 hours,
as
as
a
a
matter
matter
of
of
fact.
fact.
So
So
I
I
apologize,
apologize,
but I
but I
promise
promise
you
you
that
that
next
next
episode
episode
we
we
would
round
round
up
up and
and
wrap
wrap
up
up
the
the
achievement
achievement
section
section
of
of
the
the
NDC,
NDC,
the
the
anniversary.
anniversary.
And
And
so
so
I
I
bring to
bring to
you
you
today
today
the
the
former
former
manager
manager
of
of
SEED,
SEED,
Miss
Miss
Leonora
Leonora
George.
George.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Welcome back to Simon Says. Folks, as I mentioned earlier on, my guest today is Miss Leonora George, former manager of SEED from May 13th, 2013 to October 31st, 2022. She led the implementation process, attended the World Bank core course in safety net advancement in Washington, D.C. in 2016, as well as other crash courses locally and regionally. She chaired the technical committee and the Grenada Living Conditions Index, GLCI. Also the review committee and security of the appeals committee. Let me introduce to you my first guest on Simon Says, Miss Leonora George. Miss George, welcome to Simon Says.
Thank you so very much. And it is a privilege to be here. And I'm proud to be your first guest.
Historic.
Historic. That's an historic occasion.
Yes, it is. Thank you again for joining me here on Simon Says. Before we get into the meat of the matter, I want to play 2 clips that will set us in motion for what's to come.
So we started this recertification program to ensure that people who are on the program is worthy of being on the program. And it will shock you to recognize how contaminated this program was. And I could sort of understand there are people who were worthy of getting in the program, but because of the conditions for getting on, they could not get on because they failed the proxy means test. And so I guess the field officers, or whoever it was, I don't want to identify any particular individual or individuals or set of people, they might have sort of rigged the system to get them in. Some of them were indeed worthy because of the poverty situation or unemployable situation. Let me give you a typical example. If you have an inside bathroom and toilet, you live in a wall house, you automatically fail. But there are people who would have worked for many years, in the junior years, have done well, but when you've gotten to senior years, you eat up all your savings because of maybe ill health and different circumstances, situations, but you still continue to live in the house which might be needing repairs at the moment, but you don't have any other source of income. But really and truly, you need to get on because you've passed employable age, right? You have certain illnesses, certain conditions, and you're struggling, really struggling. And so there are situations like that where they had to where I believe they sort of rig the system to get in. But the system needs to have proper information. There are those situations. And there are other situations where they cheated deliberately because of unfair practices. Blatant unfair practices. People who were not worthy of being on the system. And to me, that is the biggest problem.
Let's first understand what happened, right? There was the normal seed program, and the former administration, obviously as part of its attempt to induce vote getting, would have increased a one-off payment of $150 and attached that to the seed program, right? And in its very own rollout of this, it was clear that this was going to be a temporary one-off payment of the $150 for 12 months, right? When our administration took office, obviously that we had 6 months to go, and that would have continued until December. And yes, we did not in the 2023 budget keep that $150, and there's a reason for that. We are doing the seed recertification program right now, and we needed to ensure that we sanitize the seed list. We were getting reports that there were people who had access to the database who could on their own put people on with no verification as to whether or not these persons had met the qualifying criteria. And so that certification process is ongoing as we speak. In some constituencies, they've been completed. In some constituencies, people have been added to the list. And as I indicated in my national address, in the month of April alone, several hundred people were added to the list. So before you get to the point of simply keeping the additional 150 or increasing it, we need to be in a position where we are sure that the persons who need to be on the list are on the list. Persons who no longer need to remain on the list are removed. There are instances of people who apparently who were not alive. There are instances of people who are doctors, name showing up on the list, whether deliberately or yes, or by error. So I'm saying this to say we needed to make sure that the list was sanitized. Right? We are doing that recertification, and my expectation is that once the recertification is complete, we would then be in a position to look at whether or not we were able to get savings and whether we can use those savings to increase the payments, or even if we were not able to get savings, whether going forward for the 2024 budget cycle, we are in a position to make any increases in the allocation available to seed persons.
So we're here to talk seed, and if you can, let's give the audience, the viewers, a quick synopsis on seed.
Okay, let me begin by saying that SEED is an acronym for Support for Education, Empowerment, and Development. It is an amalgamation of three previous safety net programs. Three safety net programs came together, and that was the school transportation, the necessitas program, and the public assistance. These were major safety net programs that were merged in the process of reforming our safety net programs. And it was under a project called SNAP, Safety Net Advancement Project, with the World Bank. And it was launched in 2011. And that was as a result of the census data collected in 2009 that revealed 37.7% of our population was poor. And quite a number of weaknesses were identified from the existing safety net programs. So in order to to address poverty and to enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of the government's safety net program, an arrangement was entered with the World Bank for assistance to develop this reform program. So SEED was the first, and SEED is known as the Government of Grenada's flagship program. Now, as a former manager of SEED and one who led the implementation process, as you alluded to in your introduction, who was part of the formation and management of that flagship program, I feel obligated to respond to these serious allegations. And although I heard them before, hearing them again is just so disturbing. It is disturbing because it attacks the integrity of the processes involved in that program, the efforts at building that program, all the professionals who have worked in that program, professionals from the Ministry of Social Development, the social workers, the Chief Social Development Officer at that time, Ministry of Education officials, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Health. We had a technical committee that I chaired with a number of distinguished persons on it. At this time, I remember 2 officers who have worked diligently, who would have passed: Nurse Lydia Francis, representing health, and Mrs. Pauline St. Paul, representing education. Those persons gave human service. And now to hear how the program is being attacked, it's rather disturbing, and I see it as I regard it as an insult. And it has serious implications for the image of our country as well.
Yeah.
We had 3 task team leaders from the World Bank who provided technical support throughout those processes. I worked with 2 of them, and I must say, when we completed the implementation process in September of 2018, it was a big celebration in the World Bank, because it was their success story. And let me just share with you, in 2019, early 2019, I think it was March, I went to attend a conference in Peru, and I met some personnel from the World Bank. And when the task team leader who was there introduced me as the SEED manager, they were all so elated. They were overjoyed. And Grenada received highest commendations from the World Bank for the efforts, especially as we are a small, developing country.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why what I am hearing now is so disturbing.
So let us address some of what you've been hearing now. Let us start with the allegations of the overloading of the list for votes, and as well as adding the 150 for votes as well.
So, okay, let me start with Minister Telesford claim that the system was rigged. There is no evidence of that, because a system that was rigged by persons who will indiscriminately add persons on must reflect a huge amount, a mass increase. You must have a big swelling. So let me see.
Well, the Prime Minister said hundreds was added. So
let me say that the evidence is in the ministry. The SEED has a file in the registry where information can be retrieved. So I advise them to please retrieve the seed file, and they would see for 2022, the election year, only 6 households were added to seed. 4 households were added in the month of March. So they got the first grant March month end. Unfortunately, one of them died after receiving his first payment. And in May, 2 households were added. One was to support a student at TAMCC who lives with his grandmother, and she could not afford. I don't want to get into that one, but because there are so many cases that were assisted out of pocket because of the budgetary constraint at the time, because we wanted to keep within our budget and allocation. And the other person added in May was an elderly man in St. David's with no support. His neighbor who was assisting was traveling to the States permanently, and so came into the ministry to seek assistance. That man his data was collected, it was assessed, it was sort of fast-tracked, and he was assessed as eligible. In fact, his classification was GLCI 1, which is most deprived. So the evidence is there. These were the persons in 2012. Where is
the hundreds? Now, when you say household, right, you mean it could be one person, but you describe it as household.
Okay, seed targets households and not individuals.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so
great. Go ahead.
Where that is concerned, this is fictitious. This is fictitious. There is no evidence to support that one. Miss Honorable Telesford also made mention of some households that would fail the assessment, but they were added on. Let me say, there is no need. We are the program is well aware of these households. In fact, we refer to them as asset rich and income poor, and you find those households more among the elderly. He correctly said that. The elderly, the tool is not very kind to them, but we have the appeals committee that would look at those cases, and the appeals committee can overrule the PMT in cases like that. And we had a very active appeals committee in place. I was the secretary of the appeals committee by virtue of my position, secretary of the appeals committee. The last appeals committee we had was headed by Ms. Katisha Williams. According to the operations manual, somebody from legal affairs must be the chair. The operations manual spell out everything. It makes it so easy. I wish the minister will read the operations manual. Get au fait with the operations manual. See, it is not difficult to manage. We have our operations manual, which is our Bible. Well, I'm not there anymore, but that's what we use.
Yeah.
You know, the operations manual. So there is no need. There is no need to manipulate the data. There is no need for that.
I really think he needs to get familiar, because he was using words of I believe and I think and
exactly.
And the words he was using, and you can look at him and see that he was making up stories as he went along. At least that's how I saw him.
And I'm disappointed, so disappointed that he has to be in that position when I afforded him an opportunity to discuss the program with him before I left the ministry. I made an appointment to meet with him.
Before
was
you left or before you
Yeah.
were sent home?
Before I was sent home. Yes, before I was sent home. But he indicated to me very early that he wanted a deep understanding of the program, and I appreciated that, and I welcomed that, and I was more than happy to provide him with that. So much so, I prepared a detailed report of 32 pages.
Wow.
I gave him a copy. I gave his secretary a copy of that report the day before we were supposed to meet. And when I got to his office on the Wednesday, following the little introductions, he flipped through the pages and said to me, I have an appointment in the next 10 minutes. It means there was no time to really discuss certain aspects of the report with him. And I really wanted to discuss recertification with him because I was hearing around the ministry, although at that time, from July of 2022 to October, I only had position but no authority.
Okay.
So even I was reporting to the ministry every day. Nobody said anything to me. I had nothing to do until I was called and given my letter, which is so,
So there was no transition, in other words.
Exactly. And I really wanted to pass information on.
Yeah, that was one of my questions, because Minister Tellisford spoke of the contamination of the list and that it had to be sanitized, hence the recertification process. So I wanted to ask.
That's the Prime Minister's words, sanitizing the list.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Tell us about recertification.
Yes, let me say here now that this is not the rationale for recertification. The operations manual does not speak to mass recertification. We had a mass recertification in 2014 to 2015 because we were transitioning from the old MIS from MIS 1 to MIS 2. So we were transitioning. MIS had the beneficiaries as individuals, but MIS was converting them into households because that's what the program was targeting, households. Okay. So we were transitioning. As a result, we had to do mass recertification. However, after that, recertification should be conducted every 2 years of a beneficiary being enrolled. So let me use the operations manual, and it's on page 38, which says, recertification is the process of reapplication of the GLCI, which is the Grenadian Living Conditions Index. That's our targeting instrument. It is a Proximins test, but it has been customized to reflect our living conditions here, our poverty line. And this will be done every 2 years from the enrollment date of each beneficiary household. And it says here in capital letters, note in capital letters, not every beneficiary household needs to be recertified at the same time. So this operations manual does not speak to mass recertification. So it begs the question, I know we are under transformation. So was the operations manual revised? I am not aware. So that's the seed operations manual. That's the operations manual, and that's what it says.
Right. Can't do better than
that. my deep concern, though, and it's heartbreaking, is the removal of beneficiaries from the program. Now, the minister said persons were removed but did not give a number.
Yeah.
However, 700
was added.
households were added. Now, that's quite a number.
Yeah.
And, quite a lot of questions come to my mind as to what's the cost of these 700 new households being added? What target groups were targeted for that enrollment? Because we have target groups. We have 6 target groups, beginning from children, because the goal of SEED is to break the intergenerational cycle of poverty. So education is paramount here. So children, school-age children, are our priority group, number 1. 2, we have the disabled. We have the chronically ill. We have the elderly. We have the pregnant and nursing mothers. And then we have a category called the adult poor. As we go down the line, the numbers decrease. So I can tell you, when I left, we had less than 10 adult poor. These are persons, but I know now the program should have so much more adult poor, the number of persons who are out of employment, because this group targets persons who are healthy, strong, under 60, willing to work, but cannot find work. So it's a temporary measure.
Would the allegation of strong young people on the list be connected to like the TAMCC and some of the new low people? Because there's an allegation that there are doctors, young people on the list, just people that are not supposed to be there.
The issue, let us look at the issue of doctors. I mean, this thing is raising eyebrows.
It is, because what would a doctor be doing on the list?
Exactly. What is a doctor doing on SEED lists? Let me say here, and that's what constitutes misinformation. Now, a doctor can be in our registry, but not as a beneficiary. A doctor can be an agent for a beneficiary. And we have a target group where they must have an agent in order to get onto the program. So there are cases where if the persons in the community, we'll look for persons in the community, because that target group, you would appreciate, and it's sad to say it, but that's the reality, the mentally challenged beneficiaries or persons in our community, somehow most of them lack family support. They're on their own.
Yeah.
And so because of that, in most cases, and we had an excellent relationship with the social workers at these institutions, they are the ones who came in to make referrals for the clients. In some cases, they accompanied the SEED officers to, if they have a home, some of them live in deplorable conditions, some of them are on the streets, but the social workers attached to the mental institutions assist the SEED officers in completing the application for them so that they can get on the program. And in cases like that, they will recommend persons in the community or nurses can be agents for those. I know of nurses. I must say, we do have a number of nurses who are agents for these persons. I have a friend who is an agent for somebody in her community. But to say a doctor, this is so misleading. To say a doctor is on the program, people would think as a beneficiary.
Yeah.
This cannot be.
That's how it came across.
And if that is the case, then deal with it. And I mean, no, but that's sad. It is a sad case. It is. It is so unfortunate.
It is. Well, you dealt with it already, the rigging. I mean, how possible is that to rig the whole
Okay,
system?
right. I'm glad you raised it because this shows that the minister does not understand this wonderful system in the ministry called the BMIS, the Beneficiary Management Information System, was developed by two computer experts, computer programmers, competent persons, Mr. Ivor Gill and Mr. Iman Charles. So Mr. Gill began the process, Mr. Charles completed the process. And what was even better for the ministry and the seed program is that Mr. Charles had the task of managing, so he was appointed as the MIS officer for the ministry and so became the officer responsible for the management of that system. Now, that system is like the brain of the program because it captures and stores all information. All the applicants will be on the system, but not everybody on the system will be seed beneficiaries because anybody can go to the ministry and apply. They cannot be refused.
Yeah.
But they have to be assessed, and is on the assessment. After assessment, we know who qualify, who is eligible, and who is not eligible. Let me say here that BMIS, and that's why I say it's a wonderful tool, has security features. You cannot access the MIS without a password being given to you. So officers within the seed unit had different access level. So for example, as the manager, I only had access to viewing participants, viewing beneficiaries on the program. I had access to creating reports, generating reports from it. We got a number, and again, and when I say this thing has implication not only for us in the program, but for organizations that have been using our data. UNICEF have been asking for children of school age. You can just go.
Ms. George, can you repeat what you said about your access? Do you talk a bit on the
Okay, I'm saying that officers within the unit had different access level. Right. And that's based on the security features of the MIS. So as manager, I could only view. I can go on, log in with my password, view the participants, generate reports. So if a request comes from UNICEF, IMF, for certain information, for example, UNICEF would ask about single-headed households, even UN Women would ask for, information relating to single women, single-headed households, the educational background of those persons, because there might be programs, empowerment programs for them, because we partnered with these organizations to empower our seed beneficiaries. So a lot of requests on a regular basis would come for information. So I had the privilege to go in and generate reports.
Okay.
Other officers, like the seed officers, can go in and view in the event that a seed beneficiary says, my name is not on the list, or wants to know, or to make changes. And when I say changes, I mean only to edit households.
Right.
Now, that very important part of adding benefits That is where persons can receive grants. Their names can appear on the pay sheet. Only 2 officers within the ministry had access to that level on the MIS. So any inappropriate action is not difficult to identify the culprits. So what is this hullabaloo about?
Yeah.
The MIS tracks all activities there. Anytime you log in, Leonora Judge, log in 10:40. And what I did on the MIS, it will be there. The MIS officer, Mr. Charles, generates his report by looking into the MIS. He would know who went on, what they went on for. So I do not understand where this, well, it's just an idea in the minister's head. I know he cannot provide evidence of that.
And they provide evidence of any of the allegations.
That
the hundreds. April.
Exactly. And why do you have
one I would really like to see that suggests that these people were put on there for votes.
Exactly.
That's a terrible allegation, actually.
It is. It is a serious allegation. And I cannot keep quiet.
Yeah. And I
cannot remain mute.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of the infamous cabinet conclusion. But let's move on.
Yes. So
you go ahead.
I wanted to address recertification and how it is being done.
Okay.
The manual is not being used in that process at all, because apart from the manuals giving directions or instructions as to the timelines, the manual explains as well what should happen before the interview is collected or is conducted with the head of the household. A letter must be sent to the household through the seed officers. So when they identify the persons to be recertified, letters and the templates for the letters are all in the operations manual. They are there. So it's just a matter of putting in the names. So it's not a difficult task. It's just to insert the name. The template is there. It's on the system. All they have to do is put in the name and the date, and the seed officer contacts the families and decide when they can come. Because even if most of those persons are unemployed, but they might have little garden that they go to, they might have activities that they attend, they might have persons to visit, so you cannot guarantee that they are home. And I was trying to explain that to the minister in terms of the timelines for recertification, to say to him, mass recertification is a huge undertaking and it requires a lot of human resource. So having been through a mass recertification myself in 2014 and 2015, I know we had to get backup from the Ministry of Youth in order to do the data entry, because it is a huge task.
Yeah.
And I know that the human resource in the ministry is not adequate. And so you have to now wonder, how reliable is the data collected? How efficient will be the data entry clerks? I know we only had 4 of them, and those persons cannot enter all these data. We have in excess of 6,000 households. And when you think that some households have 8-10 persons living, and the data on the household would be a lot. Sometimes seed officers had to stick 2 and 3 forms together. We know that those families are usually big families.
So the minister said that they were cleaning up the list, and that from the cleaning, removing who's not supposed to be there, from that cleaning up, that's how they were able to add the 700 persons to the list. He also said, quickly backing it up, that they're not finished with the cleaning up. So I don't quite understand how you cleaning and adding at the same time.
I
Can
don't
you
understand.
explain?
I don't understand that at all too.
Oh, okay.
That is rather confusing for me. And when I think of the capacity within the ministry, entering 700 or adding benefits to 700 households within that time, while recertification is being done, no wonder why most of the persons whose benefits were terminated are persons who should not be terminated. And I can speak of two households that I encountered recently. And that's because I went to Grenville and those persons confronted me to tell me of the situation. They were tearful. One is an elderly, 70 something years. I didn't ask him his age, but I know he's over 70 because he was on the program as an elderly. He has a number of health issues. He lives in a remote area where there is no pipe-borne water. He does not have the luxury of inside toilet. The house needs repair.
And he's off the list.
And he's off.
Oh.
So
okay.
Why?
Mr. Rouleau, I mean, he's been on the airways talking
Of course.
So
yes, and then this other lady who has children, in fact, she has a son who will be attending secondary school this year. She has a daughter already in secondary school and about 3 other children in primary school. She has no job. She's not working. Her husband is, odds and ends. He was more part of the bushing and the brigade sort of work in the community. That's not there. There is a brigade, but he's no longer he's not on the brigade. So I wonder how they, and she was tearful and she said to me, Miss, I went for money and they told me my name is on the list, is not on the list. And the thing is, with no information, for example, and as she said to me, she said, last month I got money. That was May and June. So just think about it. Just imagine you are a vulnerable person. And we know the cost of living nowadays. And that's what breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And you are anticipating seed payment. And for those in Grenville that have to walk up those steps and have to remain there. Grenville is a huge area. St. Andrews has the most beneficiaries. And so there is always a crowd in Grenville when it's payment.
Yeah.
So persons remain on those steps sometimes for over an hour. And to allow persons to show up in those places and only to be told when you get to the payment officer, your name is not on the list. Isn't that inhumane?
And that's what happened to the 150 unit. They never told them they would take. As a matter of fact, the minister responsible in social development said in Parliament, I think it might have been their first Parliament sitting, that they would continue to pay the 150. And then they removed it. And they removed it.
And the 150 made a big difference.
Oh, yes, it will.
As I said on Andre, the 150 made a huge difference as some households with children, based on the level where the children are, would not get much money. Primary school is just $75 per primary school child, and the numbers are limited. So imagine a single mother with 4 children only getting for one $75. When the 150 is removed, just imagine what that would do.
Yeah.
But again, I'm thinking, how do you treat people like that?
Yeah.
No information, no warning, nothing. Huh? Some of these elderly people, I understand, were crying in Grenville.
Yeah.
Some went home and cried. What
Ms.
you
George,
want them to do? What do they do?
Ms. George, we're about running out of time. Is there anything that you think it's necessary for the people to know, for us to know, that we have left out, that you want to conclude with?
Well, I am hoping that feedback from this program will inspire a change of heart in the ministry, would encourage a review of that process, this termination of benefits. But I wish to say to the beneficiaries affected, according to the operations manual and according to the seed handbook that you were given on enrollment, you have the right to appeal.
Yeah.
So you can go to the ministry sub-office if you are in the outer parishes. Let the seed officer know that you wish to appeal, that you were unjustly treated, because that's their right.
Yeah.
It is their right. It's in the handbook. It is in the handbook on page 14 and 15. Page 14 and 15 of the handbook would tell you what to do if you are terminated from the program. Can I appeal or complain? Page 16. Yes, you can. It's right on page 16. Can I appeal or complain? Yes, you can. So go to the ministry's office. If you are in St. George's, you go to the Botanical Gardens and let them know that you wish to make an appeal. It's your right. But Jenny, I am hoping that the minister will say this was a prank. I'm hoping that they would say this was a prank. So the persons affected will be remunerated with an retroactive payment next month. Before I leave, I must salute the seed officers who were terminated after their hard work. Some of them have children. My heart goes out to you.
Also, there were seed officers that were terminated as well.
Yes, 17. Yes, they were terminated. 17.
Oh, wow.
Yes, they were sent home.
And new ones hired?
And I was sent home as well with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want you to be strong. Just know that your services were deeply appreciated, not only by me and the ministry, but by the beneficiaries, because whenever I go to Grenville, they would come up to me, and these people are so appreciative of the seed officers. They would ask me about you people. They would ask about you. Some of them cry for me. Their heart goes out to you. And they want you to know that they really appreciated what you did for them. I want to say thanks as well to all those persons who assisted in the formation of this program. And to say that I wish the minister will take time to understand the program and complement the efforts that were put into the program to continue its development. Quite a lot was done. There are areas of development. Let me say, as the one who chaired the review committee for the targeting tool, And that again too, Jenny, how can you be using the old targeting tool, which needs revision, to assess eligibility? No, this should have been done first. Revise the tool, because quite a lot of changes need to be made.
Wow.
So don't put the cart before the horse.
Well, I was about to say it's something I've noticed throughout from the very beginning. They send home the workers who's supposed to help them transition. Even if you feel you need to send them home, you don't want to work with them, or because of their political, because they might be politically attached to the NP, or perceived actually to be so. You do your proper transitioning.
Exactly.
You know, you don't just send home and then you're in the middle of nowhere and you don't know what to do and you're doing wrong things and making wrong allegations and assumptions, instead of getting a proper and smooth transition.
Exactly, because seed was developed on data, okay, and thrives on data, and so decision should be evidence-based. It should
Yes,
be evidence-based.
need the evidence. We need the evidence. We need the
Evidence-based.
hundreds of persons that went
Exactly.
on in April. That list,
Provide,
I really hope that
provide
we,
evidence. Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, and the persons that were able to go into the data, these people, that, in my opinion, they should be fired, and we should know who they are.
Exactly.
If that's close to a crime, really.
It is. It is. It's
And just,
unethical. It's unethical. It's
yeah,
unprofessional.
yeah.
Yes.
So that also is it's But remember the minister responsible, that is Senator Gloria Thomas, saying in also that the cleaning up was to help put back the 150. That is why she said that in Parliament. They were hoping that the cleanup would have given them enough money to put back the 150. However, today they clean up and they were able to put on 700 households, but they did not put back the 150.
So, one of the objectives of recertification is to measure the impact of seed on families. And we found, because we did recertification exercises for persons 2 years in some of the parishes. We started, but COVID halted the process. And we recognized that some families went deep into poverty because of some of the dynamics within the household. We had cases where the main source of income, the breadwinner, died.
Yeah.
There's a typical family in St. David's. The mother died and left 12 children. 12.
Wow.
12 children. So if you have to recertify, you take them off. You have to give them more money.
Yes.
So there are cases where you have to add more to the household. So when the minister spoke about savings, I say, my God, she does not understand recertification. Because recertification is about making interventions. It's not only taking off persons, but it's to see where the family is at. Did they make any progress? Okay? Did they improve, or did they went back? Did they slip? Because when we assess them, they were in either GLCI 1 or GLCI 2. So you have to look at now, how many of the GLCI 1 went up to GLCI 2? Or how much of the GLCI 2 went down to GLCI 1? It can happen.
What is GLCI 2? What is it 2?
Okay. GLCI 1, that's the lowest. It means most deprived.
Okay. Okay.
And GLCI 2 means mid-deprived.
Oh, okay. That's
yes. So, and it's based on their living conditions. Yes, they are assessed based on their living conditions, the quality of the house, the number of persons living in the house, the educational attainment of the head of the household, the distance from school, the number of elderly you have in the home, chronically ill, persons like that, that would affect the scope for a family.
Okay.
So it's not just an ad hoc program where you could just go and put a name. No. I wish they would take time to understand.
That's how it came across.
Program.
That's how it came across. Sadly,
it's sad. It's very, very sad.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's icing, extra icing on the cake to make them look good. I don't understand why that need to be.
And listening to the town hall meeting, it's like Mr. Telesford was applauded when he said that 700 persons were added to the program. He got a lusty applause,
Yes, of course. Yes.
But how many persons, how many families do you have crying now? How many families do you have crying?
And what is the secret of how many was removed? It seems to be a big secret. We need to know how many was removed.
We need to know.
Yeah.
We need to know. And what target groups? What category of persons were removed?
Yeah.
And what was the rationale for removing them? On what basis?
Mm-hmm.
Because that elderly man has made no progress. He doesn't have anything.
Yeah.
So how do you exit him from the program? Terminate
the situation. He's still blind. He doesn't have any help.
So you put the man in deeper. So I guess there is no category for him now because he passed deprived.
Yeah.
Yes. You add more stress. So imagine a deprived, stressed out person.
Ms. George, thank you so much for joining Simon Says.
It is my
pleasure having you.
I do appreciate.
Yeah, and I'm sure we would have you back once needed. You're very informative, knowledgeable on the whole process. And so it was a pleasure. I mean, I am mind-boggled by some of the revelations I heard here today. And so I'm sure most my listeners and viewers will be when they see this episode of Simon Says. Thank you again for joining Simon Says.
And my best wishes to you and what you do.
Thank you. And do enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Folks, that's a wrap on today's episode. It's been great conversing with you. As usual, keeping them honest. Thank you for joining Simon Says. See you next episode. Same time, same place. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.